Joe here with the Tampa Bay home team at eXp Realty. Today we're going to discuss real estate terminology. We know it can be confusing, but it honestly does not have to be. If you're selling a home soon, here are the top 10 terms that you should feel confident during your process. Number 1, buyer's agent versus listing agent. Let's start with an easy one. Typically, buyers and sellers have a different real estate agent. A real estate agent who works with a home shopper or a buyer is called a buyer's agent. A real estate agent who works with a home seller is called a listing agent because they're listing your home for sale. Now, it's possible to have one agent representing both sides, which is called dual agency, but it's not super common, and here's why. There's a potential for a conflict of interest in this case of dual agency because the real estate agents should always negotiate in the client's best interest, which is really hard to do when representing both parties. For this reason, dual agency is actually illegal in some states. However, Florida does allow for dual agency, where you can be a transaction broker. 2, contingency. A contingency is a clause in a real estate contract that allows one or both parties to back out of the deal if certain conditions are not met. Some common contingencies include the appraisal contingency. This would allow the buyer to back out of the deal if the property appraises for less than the agreed upon purchase price. Home inspection contingency. Now, this allows the buyer to back out of the deal if the home inspection reveals major problems with the property. Mortgage contingency. Now, this allows either party to back out of the deal if the buyer is unable to obtain mortgage financing on the home. A home to sell contingency. Now, this contingency allows the buyer to back out of the deal if they are unable to sell their current home. Okay, now I really like this contingencies for you, the seller. This is the seller's purchase of replacement property contingency. Now, this allows the seller to back out of the deal if they're unable to find a suitable replacement property in time. Now, contingency clauses can be a valuable tool for both the buyer and the seller, but they can also slow down the real estate transaction. By their nature, contingencies make it easier for either party to leave the transaction, which can leave you back to square one. But it doesn't mean you should turn down all offers that include a contingency. Instead, talk to your real estate agent about the offer, and they can offer expert advice based on the market and your specific situation. Number 3, due diligence period. This is a period between when the offer gets accepted and the transaction closes. Now, during this time, the buyer has to do their due diligence and investigate the property thoroughly. This might include home inspections, the appraisal of the property, the title search, the property survey, and also it's a good time for the buyer to start comparing homeowner insurance quotes. Now, this period is meant to allow the buyer to find out everything they need to know about the property and make an educated decision about the purchase. Number 4, equity. Now, this is probably the one that you like the most because equity is the difference between the property's current market value and how much you still owe on the mortgage. So for example, if the property is worth $500,000 and you only owe $300,000, guess what? You have $200,000 in equity. Typically, the more equity you have, the better, because this is the amount of cash that you're going to be able to put away from the sale, minus any transaction fees that you have. The more equity will make it easier to purchase your next home, or you could use it to save, for your savings. You could use it for investing, retirement, education, whatever it is that you want to use it for and whatever your goal is and why you're selling. Now, seller concessions. This is number 5. A seller concession is something offered by the home seller to the buyer to incentivize the purchase. This can encompass a variety of closing costs typically paid by the buyer, including appraisal fees, origination fees, interest rate buydowns or points, real estate tax services, and more. But they can't include other purchase costs like the buyer's down payment. The buyer has to have their own down payment. Should you make seller concessions? Well, that really depends on what kind of market we're in. In a seller's market where houses are moving quickly and receiving multiple offers, seller concessions are usually unnecessary. But in a buyer's market where available homes outnumber buyers and take a while to sell, a seller concession could be a good way to stand above the competition and attract more attention. Now, we see a lot of new construction homes where they offer seller concessions. So in a certain market, you might have to offer seller concessions to make your house stand out a little bit more. Number 6, the purchase and sales agreement. The purchase and sales agreement is a document that's written by the buyer's agent so that way we can start the negotiations. It includes details like the agreed upon purchase price, the closing date, earnest money, and all the contingencies like the inspection contingency and the mortgage contingency. This is the official agreement of the terms of the real estate transaction. And when it's signed, it moves the process forward so we can get you to closing. Number 7, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, better known as CC&Rs. This is the set of rules that govern what you can do with a certain piece of property in a given area. You may be familiar with homeowners association rules in your neighborhood, which is a type of CC&Rs, but they're also common in planned communities and condo buildings. Now, these rules can apply the following. Home maintenance, like keeping those flower bed weeds free and your lawn mowed. Yes, you gotta mow your lawn. You gotta keep your house in good repair in a homeowners association. Home appearance, like the color of the exterior of your paint, the type of trash can or mailbox that you have. So when that mailbox is dirty, you're gonna have to wash it. Parking, where you're allowed to park or whether you can have a sunshade or a carport for your vehicle. Pets, this will tell you the type of breed that you can have, their weight, and how many that you can actually have. Usually the idea behind the rules, and I'm sorry, I know some people don't like rules, but it is to keep the property aesthetically pleasing and to improve and maintain the home values. So why is it important for you as a home seller to understand the rules in your area? Buyers typically want to know this information before they make an offer. And if they live somewhere with homeowners association rules and fees, you have to disclose those in advance. Number 8. The MLS, the Multiple Listing Service, or the MLS is the database in which all real estate listings information is stored. There are separate MLSs for different states, regions, and even individual cities, and they don't all have the same rules. MLS organizations in different areas require different information to be disclosed in a listing before it can go live in that database. Some basic information required by most MLSs include the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, the square footage, the price, and the name of the listing agent. But there's a lot more. Number 9, rent back. Now a rent back is an agreement between the buyer and seller which would allow you as the seller to stay living in the home after closing. Now, depending on what's negotiated in the contract, you might have to make rental payments. Now, why would a seller want a rent back? In very competitive markets, it can be difficult to find a new home after your old house is sold. And in this case, if a buyer is able to offer a rent back to the seller in a written agreement, it will give you more time to actually find your new home so that way you're not stressed trying to find that new property. Number 10, closing. Closing is when the home is finally sold. When does this happen? A sale is considered closed when all contingencies have been met, all the paperwork has been signed, and all the money has exchanged hands. Now, the title company will record the deed, which will convey the property to the new buyer. When all these steps have been completed, you'll finally hand over the keys, and the buyer will be the new homeowner. At this point, you'll be on to your next big dream. Let's keep in touch. Subscribe and get updated on the most recent real estate information from the Tampa Bay home team. Thanks so much and have a great day.